Hi everyone, welcome to another film log update video. Yes indeed, the fourth in this series of videos I've been doing for not too long now, relatively really, but of course later on last year I decided to kind of start this on the channel, with the intention to kind of at least mention, to get the word out there at least, or yeah, just to kind of start or spark a talking point on particular films that maybe otherwise wouldn't kind of mention on the channel. Perhaps review them. I can't review, as I always say, I can't review every film I watch. It's just not possible. And some films simply I don't really want to review. Perhaps maybe it could be just a first watch of a film I'm unsure of, and yes, just to kind of say my brief kind of thoughts on this. And yes, it's just a nice thing to do, and that way we can all kind of get talking in the comments about a variety of films. Of course, 2 months again, May and June, we'll discuss, or yes, just kind of go through, and I've got my log here of films that I've been watching, and yes, of course, the first film of the month, May this year, fittingly is another Bond film, and yes, For Your Eyes Only, of course, the first John Glenn directed Bond of the 80s, and I love this film. Check out my review if you want to kind of know my full thoughts on that film, but yes, one of my favourite Bond films really, personally, and yes, something I think really is very underappreciated maybe, and yeah, I think it's a great film. Absolutely love that film, and yes, great way to kind of kickstart the month, and just a feel good experience. I love James Bond, of course, as I've mentioned countless occasions. I've probably mentioned that, but yes, For Your Eyes Only, the first film. One of the next films I watched was I, Tonya, and of course Margot Robbie starring in that film, and yes, something that I wasn't I haven't heard too many great things about this film, and I thought, who knows what I'll think about this. It looks quite interesting, and I guess Sebastian Stan as well, who's a great actor. I feel, of course, in different Marvel films in particular, and yes, I think I thought it looks quite intriguing. I could really like this film, and I went in and. Once I watched this film, wow, this actually blew me away. Really stunning film actually, and yeah, it's got a lot of criticism. It's not, that popular really, but I really personally love the film, and yeah, just my take on this, this film. I think it was just a stunning film, and Margot Robbie as well. So great. Sebastian Stan, he is such a great actor, one of the best. Kind of who's recently, maybe relatively recently, started kind of working. Wow, what an actor, and a stunning film. Really something else actually, and yes, highly recommend that one, definitely. And yes, next up is Good Time. Of course, the Safdie brothers. Yes, one of their films, of course, that's very big. The other is Uncut Gems, which I haven't seen yet, but I thought I wanted to see this one first, and I guess actually it's one that intrigued me more. It looks like the one, it seemed like the one that I'd probably take to more perhaps, and yes, I did love this film as well, and I think the first half in particular was really absolutely stunning, and just so unique, so intense, but also charming, funny, and just so energetic, and so investing. Unfortunately, it did kind of go off into different directions in the second half, and especially the final act. It was slightly underwhelming, considering how this film had started, and I don't think enough was kind of wrapped up really for me, and it just never really recovered to the full standards. But I think I did overall love the film, and despite not liking the second half as much, especially the final act, I think highly recommend this one, and I look forward to checking out Uncut Gems, and I think, but this one, really, it's quite something. Actually, I think the performances are wonderful stuff, and just the filmmaking, really unique style, and just so investing, so kind of entertaining. This film, really thrilling stuff, and I think just very strange as well in a good way. The different moments in this film, I won't get into kind of spoilers, but really unique and kind of admirable film this, and yes, I'd highly recommend it. Next up is HUD, Paul Newman, of course, a Western film that I reviewed, so I won't kind of get into that too much, but check out my review and my thoughts on that. I love the film personally. I absolutely loved HUD, and yes, one of the next films, feature films that I watched, If, from 1968. Lindsay Anderson, made this film, and of course Malcolm McDowell, stars, the lead role, and yes, I can't say too much about this film without giving spoilers, but wow, wow, one of the best films I've ever seen actually, and I had high expectations for this. I certainly did, but it really exceeded my expectations. I think this is an absolute, masterpiece. It really, really is. Not my favourite, Malcolm McDowell film, of course, but yes, wow, this is a stunning film. And of course, it's intrigued me even more to kind of check out the rest, of Lindsay Anderson works, of course. Oh Lucky Man as well. That's one that I really, really want to see. I've added that to my watch list and immediate watch list really. And yes, just to check out the rest of this filmmaker's work, because I thought it was just a stunning piece of cinema and haunting, beautiful and just shocking. Really, really shocking. How things happened in the film, but wow, just such a stunning, stunning film, masterpiece, no doubt for me personally. And yes, next up is a film I've already forgotten, unfortunately. Armored, yes, from 2009. This film, I really can't remember much about this. It's kind of a heist kind of film in many regards, but I really did not take to this too much. It wasn't an awful film, just very, very forgettable, and just not great. Again, I've kind of forgotten my full thoughts on this because it was very, very bland, and not for me personally. But yes, next up is Pet Cemetery, the remake version. Of course, I've seen the original, from the 80s. I wasn't a fan of that film, but this film I think is worse. It just isn't. Again, it's just another kind of bland, kind of soulless, unfortunately, just this cold horror film mostly, and just really stupid decisions, made in this, I feel. But I think there's some moments early on that I kind of, I thought they were quite good, or quite, just nice to pleasant, you could say. But of course, this is a very, very strange, actual story as well. Seems like it could be hard to actually adapt properly. But I think this film, just based on this adaptation, in that sense, I'm not personally a fan. It's of course fine, if you're a fan of any of these films that I'm mentioning. But I personally did not like this film, and unfortunately, quite a slog. It's an unenjoyable experience. But yes, next up, of course, is Octopussy, a Bond film that I really, really like, actually, and I think it's an underrated Bond, underappreciated, and I think yes, it gets a lot of criticism, a lot of hate for many different reasons. I really think it's a well-made, just enjoyable, charming film. Again, I review all these Bond films. Again, I've been reviewing them. So yes, if you want my thoughts, more in depth, of course, visit them reviews if you want. And yes, but I really like this film. I think it's a good, solid Bond, and yes, very, very enjoyable. Evan Almighty, another film I watched, on the same day actually. Yes. This was, it's very, very, kind of bare bones, kind of a like that I would give this film. It was funny in places. I think Steve Carell, is an actor who I'm a big, big fan of. But this film, I think it could have been more than this. What it was, and I think just, it was just very basic at times, and just. Yeah, it's just very, very. There's quite a lot of things that I just wasn't that invested in. Really, it was fine. It's an average kind of comedy. Some really funny moments early on, maybe more so. But yes, just an okay comedy. But yeah, Steve Carell, big fan of, and it's just a decent little film, I would say. And yes, I've been watching, as I've said last time round as well, my last film log update video, I kind of mentioned I've been watching, or rewatching, of course, as well, some of the MCU films, or in fact, all of them, all of the kind of main, the 23 of them, and of course I've, now reached. I've only got a few left really, but of course, one of the ones I watched in early May, again, of course, was The Winter Soldier, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I personally love the film, and it's just stunning, film here. It's a wonderful kind of superhero film, a thriller, of course. His action in this film is just really stunning. I feel, and we have. There's just so many great moments in this film. And I think it's a stunning film. Its action, just its script. All these different kind of moments throughout the film. These different reveals. Wow, the way they kind of they're expanding, on the Captain America kind of narrative in this film. Really is something else. I think just from start to finish, one of the best MCU films for me. And yes, next up is a kind of an independent, kind of Irish film, Cardboard Gangsters. I think I recommend this film. It's nothing kind of mind blowing. I feel it had definitely had things I wasn't a fan of personally, but I really I liked this film. I think it was decent, little kind of drama, crime film, and it had its moments. That was well shot. I think different moments in this film were very interesting. Overall, it's a decent film, and it's definitely worth checking out. Maybe one that not too many people have maybe seen, but yes, I'd say give it a go and see what you think. Definitely get the word out there. And yes, Kes, again, I reviewed Kes, of course, the Ken Loach film. And yes, I love that film. It could be my favourite Ken Loach film. Absolute masterpiece in my opinion. And yes, Fantastic Four, the kind of yes, the 2005 version that is, of course. And yes, I think this film, and the sequel I watched as well. The sequel, reminds me of The Silver Surfer. Is not a very good film at all. In fact, it's very mediocre, I feel. But the first one is okay. Again, I don't love this film. I think it's kind of charming. It's kind of it's got its moments of heart, and kind of warmth, and just it's kind of enjoyable and funny, and I think it's got some decent moments of action, but I think mainly the acting in the film is something that really lets it down, and the script, and just some of the basic moments, and the things that could have been so much better in how they handled particular characters, things going on there. Just but it's an okay film. The first one, again, it's a very hated film. Both of these films are, but I personally I like the first. I'm not big on the second at all, but I don't think it's an awful film either. But yes, next up is Piercing. This is a very strange film, one that I can't really describe. It's kind of it turns into, I won't ruin the film because it would, yes, maybe check it out, see what you think. But I think yes, it's kind of, it started off actually very good, very compelling actually, and very unique, and drew me in a very particular way, of course, and it kind of just turned into this really violence for the sake of it, in the way it was doing it, and I did not like the second half of the film at all, really, and it was just very disgusting film. So not a great experience, unfortunately, with this film. But I'd say check it out, maybe, if you're interested. It's not a film I liked really overall. You could say maybe, but not quite there. It's kind of a I'm not sure, probably not, film I liked really, but yes, worth checking out, if you're interested. Next up, A View to a Kill, the final Roger Moore Bond, of course. I've talked about that, and I'm personally a fan. I know, again, very divisive Bond film, but I'm personally a fan, and I would certainly, say, I'd defend the film, and I'd say it's definitely not a bad film. I don't feel, like many would say, it's definitely grown on me. I feel this film, A View to a Kill. But again, you can check out my review if you want my kind of in-depth thoughts on this film. But yes, A View to a Kill, we have it there. So next up, the Simpsons movie. I got Disney Plus. Last it was May, of course, so 2 months ago now. But yes, my first film, that I watched on this, rewatched of course, the Simpsons movie, and yeah, very divisive film. I love the film. I think it's a great, great film, and I think it's so enjoyable. I really think it's a great kind of adaptation, of the show. I guess yes, it's not the in many regards, the absolute best work of involving the Simpsons, kind of material. But I think for what this film is, kind of a film adaptation of this, very prestigious show. I think it's a great, great film, and I think just I don't get the kind of the hate for this film really. I think it's just a highly entertaining film, and it's definitely very creative, while also being kind of just what you would expect, really, from a film adaptation. Just a great experience once again, and of course, yes, the first film I watched on Disney Plus. Next up, Guardians of the Galaxy, another MCU film, of course. I personally, well, this is my favourite. I will say now, my favourite MCU film, and just one of the best, one of the best. Superhero films ever made, actually, for me. Yes, pure joy. Real callback, I feel, to kind of classic blockbusters. Kind of like Thor Ragnarok is as well, which we'll get to in this video. But yes, Guardians of the Galaxy. My absolute favorite MCU film, and yes, George of the Jungle. I watched this the live action. Kind of version here, Brendan Fraser, and yes, I like this film. Again, it seems like not too many people, do like this film. But yeah, I think it's a very silly, kind of over the top film. But I liked it. I think it's very charming. I watched this as a kid as well, so it's great to kind of revisit this. And yeah, I remember liking it as a kid as well. And yes, it's a decent film. It's okay. It's not anything special really, in my opinion. But yeah, it's kind of very enjoyable at times, and other times it's maybe a bit flat and maybe a bit all over the place, really. But yes, it's very enjoyable at times, and overall, it's a film that I like, and definitely, yes, had a good time, rewatching this. Next up, Avengers: Age of Ultron. Not a massive fan of this one. I think it's a disappointing sequel to the Avengers, which is just one of the best. Again, one of the best superhero films. Age of Ultron is just not that great. I think it's a good film. It's got really, really strong highs, I think, but most of the film it's just in some way just underwhelming, and nothing close to the original Avengers film, or Infinity War. No way, definitely not. But I've not seen Endgame, of course, yet. It's one of the next ones, of course, that I have to see. But yes, Age of Ultron, good film, but not great for me. Minority Report, another film, another Spielberg film that I'd never seen, and yes, I reviewed that film very recently as well. And yes, I think it's a good film, very, very unique film. Not one of my favourite Spielberg films, but that's just the way it is. He's made so many of my favourite films, and I think just this is definitely a film that starts off absolutely so great. It does peter around. It goes in directions that I wasn't behind really. But yeah, no, it's a good film. Very, very unique, and it's got some real highs as well. It's a real stunning film in many regards, actually. And yes, Tom Cruise, as always, great. And yes, other films I've been watching, funny enough, is on Disney Plus, the Silly Symphony, works of Disney, and this has been very nostalgic to kind of see again. I've seen a few of them before, and I've been working through some of them as well. One I've not seen before until when I watched it, in May, was Flowers and Trees, and very, very beautiful little short film, actually, and very, very simplistic. I loved the simplicity of this, and just very, very nice, very kind of just innocent and pure. This film, really, really great to see. It's a decent little short, actually, and yes, that was one of the shorts that I watched. Of course, as well on Disney Plus, I watched The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and I did, of course, review that film. But yes, it's a film that I had a great, great time, kind of rewatching. Wonderful, wonderful Disney film, I feel, and yes, definitely among the better Disney's. I feel the official Disney animated kind of features, and it's just highly enjoyable. I really recommend that film if you haven't seen it. Next up is Rebecca, the Alfred Hitchcock film. Yes, this film, I watched it, of course. I watched it for the first time. I believe it was. March 2018 actually, and I loved the film. It blew me away, and this time round, wow, it really just stumped me once again. In the way I can't really, I have trouble, articulating my thoughts on this one because, and it's the only Hitchcock that really does that to me. I think it's just such a strange, film that I saw different things in it this time around as well. That just kind of added to the kind of whole, complexity of this film really. And is it this? Is it that? Such a great film. I love the film for the record, but before reviewing it, I think I have to give it yet another, rewatch, and hopefully, watch some other Hitchcocks as well. I will be definitely before, that, and reviewing them before Rebecca. Even though I watched this, in May, I can't give this a review yet. It's so kind of complex in so many ways. I really. I can't quite express the particular feelings. It's not one of my absolute favourite Hitchcocks. I will say that now. There are definitely many others that I prefer, but it's definitely one of his masterpieces. I'll say that now. Absolutely stunning film, and so one of the best opening kind of scenes that I've seen in a long time actually. Really something else. Wonderful film, but yes, I can't give this a discussion yet, but I look forward to when I do, and to hear your thoughts on it. Very interesting Hitchcock, no doubt. Next up is La La Land, and yes, of course, very famous musical that came out a few years ago. Of course, and yes, I don't know if I reviewed that film. It's a film that I absolutely love personally, and yes, I'm on the positive side of La La Land, and I think it's just one of the best, musicals, in cinema history actually, and I think it's just really such a mind-blowing film. This is one of the best films for me of the 2010s actually, and really absolutely stunning. I don't know if I want to give that a review. I think maybe not, but for the record, I love the film, and if you get the chance, really, give this a try. Really stunning film. If you love musicals, really is a callback as well to classic, musicals, and just a stunning film. Next up is Ant-Man, another MCU film, and one that I've not heard, great things about necessarily, in the grand scheme of things. But I personally, and I'd never seen it before actually. I'd never seen this or Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I think, for whatever reason, I didn't see this film before. But yes, I actually loved this film. I think it's one of the better MCU films. It's not one of the absolute best, but I loved it, and actually very very surprised actually, of this film. And yes, I think it's definitely quite underappreciated. I really loved this film. Great film. Paul Rudd, of course, really great in this film. Michael Douglas as well. He was a standout. Just individual in this film. Yes, and great film in my opinion. Speaking of great, well, to call this film great, it's too much of an understatement. But wow. Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans. I will get a review up for this, hopefully within the next few weeks. It's not a film I need to I needed to, watch and immediately review, because I'm always thinking about this since I saw it back in 2018. One of the most special films ever made, and I will review this film. But yes, I guess I was too flawed actually once again to review this maybe on the night or on the week or whatever of watching this. But yes, we'll talk about that film hopefully very very soon. Next up is Knives Out, directed by Ryan Johnson. Of course, I'd seen Looper. That was my first experience with this filmmaker. Very interesting filmmaker, of course, and yes, Looper for me, is his best film that I've seen. And yes, of course, I've seen another film directed by Ryan Johnson. Wasn't a fan of that film at all. But yes, this film here, great film, really interesting film, and I can see why it's kind of praised so much. It is definitely in some regards at least a callback film to kind of this classic whodunit kind of esque kind of set of films. But on the other hand, it has got some things I wasn't a fan of. In the modern sense, the kind of social media kind of references and stuff. It's a bit too much. But yeah, overall, and it did kind of have some issues in the second half mainly. Although the highs were maybe more present then. But yes, overall, great film. My favourite film though from Ryan Johnson is Looper. That's an absolutely stunning film. I watched that a week after. I rewatched that film a week after. Knives Out, and yes, just stunning film. Captain America: Civil War, one of my favourite MCU films, and yes, Doctor Strange as well. The day after Civil War. So yes, Doctor Strange is a film that I saw. I saw it for the first time, and I wasn't a big fan of this at all. If it was average, it's grown on me. I think it's a good film. It's not one of my favourites, but yeah, it's a good film that has some unique and engaging moments. And yes, I think Benedict Cumberbatch is very good in this film actually. And yes. Next up is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Talk about a turnaround, my opinion of this film. I did not like this film when I first saw it in cinemas, and it's just a film that actually was one of my least favourite MCU films. But actually, you could say I nearly loved this film, very nearly overall. I think mostly I did. There was a few things that I wasn't big on, and it doesn't compare for me to the first film, but actually I really see this film very differently on a rewatch, and I'm a big fan of this actually. I think it's one of the better MCU films. Monsters Inc. Again, I reviewed that film. I love that film there, of course. Wonderful Pixar work, and yes, The Living Daylights. Again, another Bond film that I reviewed. Very enjoyable film. A Bug's Life. Again, I reviewed that. Some of short films that I'm going to gloss over as well. Spider-Man: Homecoming. It's a film that I rewatched again. I've seen it 3 times now. Once in a cinema, and twice on kind of home release. And I think it's a good film. It's not a film that is kind of special to me. Really, it's not a film that I think is great or anything like that personally. But yes, it's a good film. Very energetic. Sometimes a bit too much in that sense. But overall, it's a good film. It doesn't do anything really stand out of the. There's a few elements. Michael Keaton, is great in this film. Tom Holland is great in his portrayal of this Spider-Man take. But yeah, I think it's a good film. Not one of my favourite MCU films, but yeah, it's a decent film. The Order, of course, Jean-Claude Van Damme. This is quite a bizarre film. It's not great, I don't feel, but it was an okay watch. It was more funny than anything really. But I think it's quite well made in the action department, and it's just the adventurous feeling. That's the thing. It makes up for the kind of the bad script. I feel really bad at times with the energetic, adventurous feeling, and the way it's kind of shot at times is pretty good, and just a nice feeling. Not much more to say there. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Terry Gilliam work. I think it's a decent film. It's a film that I liked. I reviewed that one as well. I struggled with this film, a bit. It's not a film that I love. It's a film I think everyone should see at some point, and it's just an entertaining film. A great soundtrack, wonderful songs that I love, and from of course that period, just great kind of a great callback kind of film, and in many regards, of course, on the soundtrack being one of them. Really great soundtrack, and yes, fan of the cast as well. Not my favourite Gilliam work, but it's an okay film. Groundhog Day. Wow, this is a film that I'd never seen before. never seen actually. Yes, believe it or not, big Bill Murray fan. I've seen Ghostbusters, of course, and Tootsie. Different films like that, but I'd never seen Groundhog Day. And let me just say, I've heard some great things about this. It's a very popular film. But yeah, I think this film is better than I thought it would be. Even considering the hype, the actual the kind of praise this film has got, I must say it's one of my absolute favourite films of all time, and I don't plan on reviewing that yet. I could do on a rewatch, but let me just say, a truly special film to me, and I think it's an absolute masterpiece of cinema, possibly the best. In fact, it probably is the best first watch for me of 2020. So that's very prestigious. Yes, loved it. Next up, another Chazelle film, Whiplash. This is a film, Whiplash, that I didn't take too much. I must say, I must admit that now. I first watched this, in 2017, and I wasn't a big fan of this. I think it was just a kind of a film that I wasn't maybe in the right mindset to watch, and I thought it was decent. I thought first time round, but it just didn't really. I didn't connect to it as much as I thought I would. This time round, I mean, wow! It's not my favorite. La La Land is my favorite Chazelle film, but this film is so stunning. Wow, this is so great. Check it out if you've not seen it. Honestly, stunning film. Roadhouse, another film that I reviewed. We won't dwell on some of these ones. The Tortoise and the Hare, another Disney short. Of course, very famous tale, and I really enjoyed. It was of course the 1935 version, that short there. So yes, I really enjoyed that film, and I've seen it before. So yes, it was great to kind of see again. Very nostalgic film. Here's a one that is very intriguing. Elementary, the blacksmith and the devil. It is on Netflix, I believe still, and really good. Kind of horror comedy film. This is just so unique. I loved this film at different moments. I think it's a very good film overall, and it turns into a very different film. I'm not going to ruin this at all. This is very unique, but yes, it turns into a different film as it went on. I feel it was one thing and then it wasn't. The transition was a bit weird, I must say, but once it kind of did open up in that sense, and I knew what the film was trying to be, I had a great time with this. Really hilarious film, but yes, very really unique. The designs, of course, as well, and just a great kind of visual piece as well. It's a very good film with some great moments and aspects, and I really enjoyed this film. So yes, The Art of Skiing, another Disney short that I really enjoyed. Yes. Next up, The Wizard. This is an 80s film. It's kind of a cult film, you could say. I really liked this film. In fact, I love this film. I think it's again yet another kind of underappreciated film. Really wonderful film. Very feel good, and it's just highly enjoyable. Next up is Kindergarten Cop. I really wanted to watch again, and it's a film I saw quite often as a kid, and yes, very good film actually. I think it's not a popular film, but I really like this film, and it's just really bizarre. In fact, it's one of the most insane films I've ever seen actually. Really hilarious film though, and yes, just very investing actually, and it's just, you could say it's definitely not a film. I've not seen too many films like this before, so yes. Next up is 12 Monkeys. Again, I want to review this film hopefully very soon, and yes, just for me, wow, it's a stunning film. It really is. I think it'd be very hard to see another film, from Terry Gilliam, solo piece, in that sense that will top this work. For me, I feel it's going to be very hard to see that. But who knows? This guy, is a genius, and I think this film really is something else, and I can't wait to talk about that. So yes, then I started going back to my kind of rewatch of the Friday the 13th films, and of course, Yes, I had watched a few, a while back. I mentioned I reviewed the first actually. Yes, but I mentioned some of the other ones as well. But yes, I started off, this time round with part five, and yes, a new beginning, and yes, really bad film that one. But part six, this is the first Friday the 13th film. The only one that I've seen that actually I like, in the sense of, I think actually it's not, even under par, this film. I actually think it's a pretty decent horror comedy film. It really is self-aware, and I think that really does it favors. It's not just, this throwaway kind of slasher film. I think it's a really kind of unique film that's very, very enjoyable, at times. And I think, yes, definitely, it's my favorite, the franchise. And then I kind of watched another, campy horror film, but this was just not enjoyable. Galaxy of Terror. This is just, yeah, a real, kind of slog of a film, and just not good at all, really, in my opinion. But yes, next up, I watched Holmes and Watson. Now, this is, of course, starring John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, two actors who I'm, big fan of, especially John C. Reilly. He's one of my personal favourite actors, actually. Certainly modern actors. I think, he is just such a legend. So it doesn't, it's not a film that I'm kind of I'm bashing on at all. It's just not a film that I enjoyed. I think it had some moments. I'm not going to say this is one of the worst comedies I've ever seen, because it's absolutely not. But did the second half really was really, really bad, unfortunately. But I had some funny moments early on, actually. A couple of laughs. It's not completely irredeemable, in a sense, as a comedy film. But yeah, it's not a good film, in my opinion. I didn't like it, but I think it's not one of the worst comedies I've seen. But yes. Next up is a Guy Hamilton film I watched. It's kind of tying with watching all these Bond films again. Battle of Britain. Yes, this has a great cast. Directed by Guy Hamilton. Of course, about a very interesting event as well. But sadly, this is not a film that I liked. Very, very flat. And I think actually, it was interesting seeing the kind of reactions from various people about this film. It seems like it's not too popular, but I was just watching it kind of very, just bemused by this experience. I didn't get invested in. Well, there wasn't really any characters. That's the thing. Great cast. And I think Christopher Plummer actually is the standout here. I did enjoy him quite a bit, but unfortunately, none of these legends are given any characters really to work with. So it's a very just a slog of a film, really, and the action is not great either, which is a shame because Guy Hamilton directed this film. There's a lot of things in the production to praise, and just it is quite a pleasant film at times, but it is just not a film that I enjoyed. Very, very flat, and just very disappointing, unfortunately. Next up is another Friday the 13th film, The New Blood. I think this is it's not a bad film, but it's not too great either. Not much more to say there. Invaders from Mars. This is a Tobe Hooper film, and yes, just very enjoyable, horror film there as well. The Money Pit. I watched this. Yes. Very recently. I'd never seen it before. Tom Hanks film, and I really enjoyed this one. I think it's definitely it's got a very weak, final act in comparison to the previous parts of the film. But I enjoyed it. It was a funny film and very, very warm. And yes, at Eternity's Gate, I reviewed that film, of course, the Van Gogh biographical piece. And yes, I loved that film. And yes, Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan. Wow, this is where the kind of the franchise went in terms of just insane. Not as bad as I thought it'd be. In fact, it's one of the films. It wasn't one of my least favourites. Let's just say that in the franchise. Not a dreadful film, but again, not a good film in my opinion. License to Kill. Again, I reviewed that very recently. Next up is Howard's End. Of course, James Ivory film, and of course, massive cast here, and Anthony Hopkins, of course, and Emma Thompson in particular, of course. Yes, I liked this film. I really loved the visuals to this. It's a stunning film to look at. Just as well in the feeling in a variety of different ways. Really, really nostalgic. Very much just wonderful feeling I got in different moments. The locations and just the overall feeling at times. Not a film that I loved. The characters were not that engaging, and the narrative just. I think, it just wasn't, I think the first half an hour I really was a big fan of, and after that, not so much, but, it's a film I enjoyed, and definitely, it kind of evoked a strong sense of nostalgia, and, just, in me, and it's a beautiful film, in many regards, so yes, of course I will watch, James Ivory films, the rest of his work, of course I look forward to massively, and, yes, wrapping up very, very soon here, Humanoids from the Deep, very bizarre and pretty bad, unfortunately, horror film, and it's got some interesting moments, but really it's kind of it's a film that I did enjoy, and very kind of just not a good film in my opinion, unfortunately. For Ragnarok, the most recent MCU kind of rewatch that I've kind of had, and absolutely love that film. My favourite Thor film, definitely, and yes, one of my favourite MCU films. Absolutely loved that film. And yes, Arctic, of course, with Mads Mikkelsen. This is, a really, really impressive work, and yes, just really stunning to see. A kind of a film with very few actors in this, and just a real, real personal piece of filmmaking here. Wonderful kind of outdoors experience, survival film, very moving, and just highly engaging throughout. And then today as well, I watched Faust again, and that's it for now. That's the wrap up. We'll end it on Faust. One of the best films I've ever seen. So yes, I just had the urge to watch that again, and really, really stunning, stunning film. Absolutely. If you've not seen Faust, highly, highly recommend it. And yes, I reviewed that back last year on my channel. So yes, that's it for now. Tell me your thoughts, of course, on these films. And it's been more of a lengthy one, but yeah, I think it'd be great to talk about these films. Have you seen, these films, and what do you think of them? Of course, a big variety of films to discuss. So yeah, great, great kind of films I've watched, and some not so great in my opinion. But yeah, that's just the way it is, of course. And I look forward to continuing with different series. Series that I've been doing recently, and of course the James Bond films. I can't wait to kind of continue, and as well some different developments. That's been going on in the background. But I look forward to kind of yes as well. So yes, we'll have a great month. Hopefully, this July, of course, and yes, August as well. And we'll be back to kind of talk about the films that I watched in these 2 months. Probably in September. So yes, early September. For now, of course, yes. Tell me your thoughts. And yes, it's a thing that I enjoyed doing once again. Kind of going through these films, or most of the other films that I've watched that I maybe haven't reviewed. And yes, just kind of glossing over, perhaps just to kind of get some talking points with you, viewers as well. So yes, as always, take care indeed, and yes, thanks for watching.